All right, so questions to ask yourself when filling out your ticket. So now we've qualified it, we're going to fill out our ticket. So how will the crew clean high areas? So as a territory manager, we got to know these different surfaces, how long it might take, what ladders are we going to use, how am I going to get this? Like Sam Brooks does some huge mansions. He was like, we were going to have to put a tree stand in this tree to clean this, this dormer or whatever it was. And so we had to think outside the box a little bit, on some of these projects. But that's our customer, guys. The high-end, what I call them little mini McMansions, that the wife can go buy a $500 purse and not even flinch, And then you're talking about $1,000, $2,000 cleaning. They want to invest in their most important asset, their home, right? So that's what we're looking for. And what size ladder to have on site? Any specific equipment like tools, if you got to use a screwdriver for something, bags around lights, if they have TV on the back, porch, all this stuff. We got to think about these things because we're using water, we're using sodium hypochlorite, which is a conductor, right? So we got to look at outlets. There's a lot to look at. So you got to have a checklist, and that's what our pre-inspection sheet is, and that's in the back of the Sales Boost binder. But we have a pre-inspection sheet that we go through that we can look at and kind of jog our memory a little bit so we're executing and have a seamless process, because we don't want to get out there and be like, nobody told me I needed a 40-foot ladder. It's like, well, you're supposed to have it in your truck anyway, and then then you're running into those issues, and the customer's like, what is going on? You can't get the back of my house, and you quoted it, then you're looking bad. So from the get-go, we want to explain to them and be an educator and let them know how we're going to tackle those situations. And then how far is the boat dock? So how many feet of hose are we going to need? There was a gentleman just called me yesterday. He's like, man, I got a 2,000-foot pier that he's cleaning. It's 4 foot by 2,000 feet. He's like, how do I do it, Pat? He's like, can I rent some hose from you? I'm like, man, I don't even have that much hose. You know what I mean? So I don't know what to tell you. But, those are obstacles we got to overcome. So things like that, right? That you're like, oh, I didn't really think about, but you need to know. That way you don't run into those hiccups when the crew shows up. And then how high is the bee's nest? Do we need to charge? We ran into a job, there was like 187 bees nests on this one-story clubhouse. It was ridiculous, and my guys were calling me and all this stuff. So things like that we got to look at, and do we need to charge more, right? Because if we're doing 187 bees nests that are loaded with bees, it's going to take a little bit more time, right? So things like that, thinking outside the box. Red Dauber's nest are extra time as well, so charge when there's a bunch of them. There's a couple, we're there, we're going to hit them off. But these are things that you can upsell, because there's a bunch of them. We got to charge a little bit for that. Is there water, and how good is the pressure? So this is key for us, right? Because water's our lifeline, right? So we got to make sure what the water pressure is. Is it on a well? I mean, we were doing jobs in Simpsonville here, and you wouldn't think this house was on a well, but it was. And I was like, no way. And we ran out of water, and then what is it? More time. We have to, bring the water trailer and, have a buffer tank, and then that even took some time, so it was extra time. Yes, sir?
When you run into that problem, you already have the price for the house and you're doing it. How do you charge them accordingly?
So if we already have the price and you run into that, you have to eat it. So that's why we want to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's when we're doing the quote and we're asking those pre-qualified questions. I hate going back to a customer and saying, oh, look, it's going to be another $100 because your water. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bite the bullet and we're going to get it done. We're going to serve them. But if I can, get it on the next job, right, then we're moving forward. Yes, sir, Gary?
What do you do about bees? I've got a job right now that I've got a bee's nest on every one of the 20 buildings.
Sure. So what we do about bees on houses and buildings is we have wasp spray in all the trucks now, so we'll spray them with wasp nest. I used to just hit it with a 2% mix and watch them fall to the ground, you know what I mean? And do the dance. I'm popping them like, get them, yeah! And then what we'll do is we use our extension poles and then pop the nest down. And if you use like Terra Wash or, gutter butter, it'll get that little wick down, Sometimes it's on there really, really good, but the extension pole, I take the brush head off and I just extend it out and then pop them down. But yeah, bee's nest, if there's anything bigger than something like this, they need to call a pest control company. So when I'm doing the proposal, and they got a big old ball, I ain't going near that. Sorry, love you, And there was a job I did, it was probably 6 years ago, and it was 3 stories on the back, right? And then they had the deck, so they had a roof above the deck, and then another 1 story above it. and it kind of like jetted in a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up on the ladder. I'm just gonna, spray it because I couldn't get it from the ground. So I was gonna do, I think I had the 40-foot ladder up on this. I climb up the ladder and I get on, and I got rolling up my hoses, and I'm basically in the corner of the L, and it goes this way, and there's 2 windows, and it's just over the deck. And so I get my hoses up, I turn around, and right in the corner is a bee's nest this big. And I'm like, I'm about to jump 3 stories off this roof, right? So then I shoot around the corner, and I'm just like, my assistant tech's like, Pat, what's going on, man? I'm like, giant bee's nest, dude. I'm about to jump. He's like, don't. He's like, don't jump. So luckily I got down, and I had, in that situation, I had to let the customer know I can't clean that area. It's just the bee's nest is so big, I'd die, one of those things. So looking for those things, when you're doing the quote and setting yourself up for success, is key. All right, so is the water on a well? We just talked about that. Fill out the special instructions box. So communication is key. And you guys are going to see my invoice, but on the very bottom I have a special instructions box. Is there dogs in the back? Does the gate need to be closed? Is there a gate code? Is there a leaky window? Whatever you can, possibly put in that, you want to put in it. If the gutters, are really bad and they're only going to come out 80%, and you're communicating with the customer that they're only going to come out 80%, what are you going to do? Set expectations, put it in the special instructions box. That way it's over communication, not, well, the customer said, the sales rep said it's going to come out brand new. You know what I mean? Like brand new gutters and all this stuff. Because sometimes we do. We kind of, over promote, if you will, sometimes. It's like, yeah, it's going to come out amazing. And then we don't know, though, until we start cleaning. Because there's gutters that are just so dirty, and they've been there for so long that the oxidation's actually etched into the paint, and literally you got to remove the paint to get the oxidation off. So setting the expectation for that way the homeowner's not like, oh, well, he said it was going to be 100%. Because it's not that the customer's lying, but they don't walk around their house every day, looking at every little thing that the landscaper threw a rock up and cracked the siding. And then they're like, oh, well, your pressure washer did it. Well, man, we didn't even use a pressure washer on your home, So now what are we doing? Eliminating those liabilities on our company because we're using soft washing. I run it over my hand. I show them, there's no way that we could do that. That must have been from the lawnmower. I mean, we had a gentleman on a golf course, right? Told me that we broke his window. Well, it was like this big of a hole, right? And then, of course, what was inside? The golf ball. So he said that we broke the window, and I said, well, let me go out there, let me look at it. We inspected it, and sure enough, it was a golf ball in there. And he's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. And it's not that sometimes we're like, man, they're just trying to get us, but they don't look at their home every day. So we need to, as a professional, look at all these things, look at the oxidation on the siding, right? On the southern facing side. We got to look at that. We got to do an oxidation test. So we're setting those expectations up so we're not overselling. I always want to undersell and over-deliver, right? That way we're just blowing them away and we get an awesome 5-star review.